Oh, hello there. Time for the third in the series on persuasive devices for GCSE. Stay tuned. Schofield on Shakespeare.
Video 1 explored the persuasive techniques shown on screen now. Video 2 looked at these ones. And in this video I will introduce you to another 5 whilst referencing the Specimen 2020 CIE question on screen now. CIE 0990-0500 Paper 2 Directed Writing. This question invites pupils to write a rousing speech as to whether their voice should be heard for school-related decisions. As mentioned in the first video, it's important not to overuse persuasive devices. For this particular question and exam board, candidates need to both write persuasively and show an understanding of 2 texts. For the purposes of this video, however, we will only be focusing on the writing marks of this question, so we're not going to refer to the exam text at all. Predictably, they are rather dull. As with the previous videos, you will be able to use your own views and knowledge of the topic. Have a look at part of my response. Can you identify particular techniques which make the writing more persuasive? Press pause to read, think, and jot down a few thoughts. This video will resume in 5 seconds' time. The observant amongst you will have noticed the increasing hysteria of the adjectives. First, the relatively cautious imprudent, then the blunter foolish, finally the let them have it crazy. This is an example of auxasis. We build up momentum and a head of steam as the sentence continues until there are no holds barred. Note also the dash and the careful clarification at the end of the sentence. This is known as metanoia. This, combined with the use of auxasis, allows us naughtily to have the best of both worlds. On the one hand, we have the rhetorical power of the increasingly forceful adjectives imprudent, foolish and crazy, aimed at those ignorant members of senior management who deny pupils the opportunity to make strategic decisions for the benefit of all. And on the other hand, the clarification makes the writer seem more considered and as though he or she is being careful and thoughtful with his or her language and arguments. Why not spend a minute jotting down these rhetorical devices? Press pause now. Now have a go at writing your own short paragraph which could be part of a longer response to the task on screen. Aim to use auxasis and metanoia. Grab your pen, it's pause time. Here's another paragraph taken from the same task. Can you identify any other techniques which make the writing more persuasive? Press pause to read, think and jot down a few ideas. All of you would have spotted and wondered about the repeated initial S sounds within the first sentence. Its use of sibilance. Back in January, when we were all able to travel and work normally, I attended a CIE training event in London. The genial CIE representative gave some general tips for the 0500-0990 exams. In relation to alliteration, he felt that it was best to steer pupils away from this. Whilst I agree that some obvious alliteration or sibilance can be tedious, I do feel that the dramatic effect of repeated initial sounds can be particularly effective in a speech. Remember that, in theory, although not in a GCSE exam, the audience can't read your writing, and so you need to find other ways to keep them engaged, to keep them listening. So referring directly and regularly to your audience is important. use the personal pronoun you, and why not openly show your affection for them? Is this ending to the rhetorical question too over the top? Dismiss our dismay, ridicule our rigidity, and scoff at our scorn? Possibly, but it does unequivocally grab the attention of your audience. Pretty important in a speech. This is intended to be an example of paranomasia, repetition of words which are nearly but not precisely alike in sound. Dismiss, dismay. Ridicule, rigidity. Scoff, scorn. Note also that the length of these phrases are virtually identical. 4 words for to dismiss our dismay, 4 words for to ridicule our rigidity, and 5 for to scoff at our scorn. Now this is known as isocolon. The effect of this is to emphasise how much control you have over your writing and sentence structures. You are crafting for effect, not just spilling out passionate ideas willy-nilly. Jot down the persuasive technique shown on screen now after pressing pause. Now have a go at writing another short paragraph which could be part of a longer response to the task on screen. Aim to use isocolon, paranomasia and sibilance. Press pause now.
You know what's coming up next. Revision. How many of the 5 persuasive devices can you remember? Let's find out.
Question 1. What technique is used by a wavering Macbeth as he tries to make up his mind whether he should kill King Duncan? Jot down your response now, pressing pause. Sibilance. Catch with his surcease success. The hissing sounds remind us of the evilness of Macbeth's plans. Question 2. What technique is used by Iago as he attempts to torment Brabantio about the elopement of his daughter Desdemona? Jot down your response now, pressing pause. Paranomasia. Note the very similar sounds and sick imagery of nephews neighing, coursers cousins, and genets for Germans. Question 3. What technique is used by Richard II as he contemplates his looming loss of power? Jot down your answer now, pressing pause. Isocolon. Note the perfect symmetry and the identically lengthened phrases in which Richard contemplates the contrast between previous grandeur and what may lie ahead of him. At this stage in the proceedings, perhaps his language remains one of the few spheres in which he remains able to exert control. Question 4. What technique is used by Polonius as he reflects on Hamlet's transformation? Jot down your response now, pressing pause. Auxasis. Note how Polonius's nouns lead up to the ultimate declaration that Hamlet now lives within an internal world of madness. Question 5. What technique is used below as I try to persuade the reader to support Crystal Palace? Jot down your response, pressing pause. Metanoia. I attempt to give the impression of in-depth thinking about the role of the Premier League through my deliberate correction of my melodramatic sounding initial pronouncements.
This has been the final video in a set of 3 getting you to think about crafting your writing persuasively. But don't go overboard with these techniques. Don't try to cram them into every single line of your 2 pages of writing. But do consider getting into the habit of experimenting with some of them. You've been watching Schofield on Shakespeare. Stay safe.